Nothing in this podcast or on our website should be construed as medical advice. Consult your healthcare provider for your individual nutritional and medical needs. The information presented is based on our research and is strictly that of the author and not necessarily those of any professional group or other individual.
Hi, I'm Sue Becker from Bread Beckers. Welcome to Sue's Healthy Minutes. I'm so excited you've joined me today, and I hope this episode encourages you and allows you to find the answers you have been praying for the health of you and your family. If you've been listening to Sue's Healthy Minutes from the beginning, or you've been a Bread Beckers customer for a while now, then you've probably heard at least some of our stories of how we got started. It's been 30 years since I realized the vision of Bread Beckers, and I met my husband Brad in the driveway as he returned home from work to share with him my idea. Weary from trying to make bread for others and for our growing family of then 6 children, but with a definite passion to help others find health through amazing nutrition found in the real bread, I spoke these words to him. I do not think I am supposed to make bread for the world. I think I'm supposed to teach the world how to make bread for themselves. Bread Beckers was birthed right there on our driveway on November 1st, 1992, and so began our journey. But I had no idea the power or reality of the words that I had just spoken. As doors opened for me to teach and speak about the health benefits of whole grains and real bread, one thing became very apparent. Americans are sick and struggling with significant health issues. Each time I taught and described the common diseases in America and the connection to commercially processed foods, particularly the bread being consumed daily, many listeners would declare that I had just described them and their struggles. In my Bible reading, Matthew 9:35 through 36 seemed to describe perfectly what I was witnessing. It says this: Jesus went throughout the cities and villages, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and healing every sickness and disease among the people. But when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion for them because they were distressed and dejected and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. That's from the Amplified Version. What is a sheep without a shepherd? It feels helpless. It doesn't know what to do. This is what I was seeing as well. As I went out teaching, I was meeting multitudes of people with every type of sickness and disease, and they seemed helpless like sheep without a shepherd. They had gone to the medical experts or alternative practitioners, but just didn't seem to be getting better or finding answers to get to the root of the issue. They simply did not know what else to do. So when they heard the message that I was teaching about the health benefits of whole grains and real bread made from freshly milled flour, they, for the first time, had hope. And they knew that this could be the answer to at least some of their struggles. It was exciting to me to see people be able to financially and physically invest in a lifestyle that would improve their health, and then even more exciting afterwards to hear their testimonies. They would often exclaim that the monetary investment of the grain mill or other equipment to begin making their bread from freshly milled flour was actually much less than the cost of the medications they were taking that didn't seem to be improving their condition, and even worse, causing adverse side effects. As the years went by, my eyes were open to the increasing health needs of others, but my path began to cross more and more frequently with those who desperately needed real bread, but truly did not have the financial means and often physical means to take this step. Convinced that real whole foods, and particularly real bread made from freshly milled flour, was the answer to so many health issues, my heart broke, particularly for the elderly, the physically disabled, and large families that were struggling financially and even physically, those who seemed to need this change the most. While we consider Beckers as much a ministry as a business, God began to put the desire in my heart to start a nonprofit ministry to help those who truly could not help themselves. So in 2007, I founded Real Bread Outreach, a 501c3 nonprofit ministry. My hope for this ministry was to come alongside those in need to provide grain mills, grain, or other kitchen equipment, as well as education and training to make healthy eating as well as bread making possible. It was a joy and a privilege to bless so many others in this way. We partnered with local food banks to help make healthier food options a possibility for the recipients. Our outreach was mostly local until 2016. In January of 2016, during my time with the Lord, part of my reading for the day included Ecclesiastes 11. Verse 1 seemed to jump off the page at me. Cast your bread upon many waters, and after many days it will come back to you. As usual, this bread verse caught my attention. What was God speaking to me? I considered how this verse might apply to my own life. My last and youngest daughter was to be married in just a few months. For the first time in nearly 40 years, I was no longer going to have full-time mom responsibilities. The kids were all finished with school. They had jobs and either married or moving on to an independent life. This new freedom for my daily mom responsibilities caused me to wonder what God might have in store for me next. Not that I needed anything to fill my time, as I was plenty busy with Beckers, with church and family, but nevertheless, I felt a tug at my heart to ask God what He had in mind for this new season in my life. So I wrote and circled these words in my journal that day with a question mark. What waters? Didn't take the Lord long to reply. 10 days later, I received an email from a customer from Florida asking me if I would consider meeting with some pastors from Haiti at my upcoming speaking event in Port St. Lucie, Florida in March. The pastors had heard some of my teaching and were hoping that we could bring real bread to their schools and orphanages in Haiti. Now, our older kids still owned a bakery here in the Woodstock area at the time, and my first thought was that there was no way we could ship the bread to Haiti. It would be moldy and spoiled by the time it got there. So I did not reply, as I really did not know how to answer the request. But persistence pays off. A few days later, I received a second email with the request again. I agreed to at least speak with the pastors to see what they had in mind. They explained how most of the kids coming to their schools were from very poor families, and they often came to school hungry. Not just a little hungry, really almost starving with gnawing stomachs. They wanted to help, but they didn't have the funds to feed them a full meal. So then they heard about real bread and the nutrition it provided. So they thought that real bread might be the best option to feed the children on a limited budget. One of the pastors from the orphanage in Gonaives, Haiti, even expressed interest in a bakery that could not only make bread for the children, but could also provide jobs and income for the community. I then realized that it wasn't the finished bread that we were to give them, but the ability to teach them to make bread for themselves. There was another ministry interested in the project as well, but they wanted me to bring the nutritional teaching and baking training. So Haiti became our first water where we cast our bread. Brad and I made our first trip to Haiti that March of 2016. And over the past several years since that trip in 2016, I have made about 15 trips to Haiti. We have trained and supported 3 teams of bread bakers. that are making bread from freshly ground flour to feed countless school children and the kids that live in the orphanages. We've received very generous support from customers and friends that have made all of this possible. One friend donated a commercial oven, and one customer even donated the entire bakery setup, complete with tables and chairs, metal work tables, sinks, and more for the bakery in Gonaives. We have been able to ship numerous containers of wheat and other grains and baking supplies to Haiti. And in February of 2020, just before the COVID shutdown, the bakery in Gonaives was completed and opened for business. From the first moment, God gave me the word from Ecclesiastes 11:1, cast your bread on many waters. And I wrote in my journal the question to God, what waters? I have been continually reminded, mostly by Brad, that God said many waters. So over the years, we've continued to ask God, what is our next waters? In the fall of 2019, God gave us our answer. Brad and I had the wonderful privilege of traveling to Israel. Our tour group of about 300 people with Rabbi Jonathan Kahn was scheduled to visit a ministry in the area of Samaria for a special lunch. As our buses climbed Mount Gerizim, we noticed the hillside covered with vineyards. We soon learned that the ministry, Hayavel, that would be serving us lunch was started by a Tennessee farmer and his family, the Wallers, 25 years ago. Their mission is to join the Jewish people and the farmers of the area in fulfilling biblical prophecy before Jesus' return. According to Jeremiah 31:5, to usher in Jesus' return, vineyards will be planted on the once desolate mountains of Samaria. While there, we discovered, quite to our surprise, that the Wallers were actually customers of ours from 20 years ago. They had heard we were coming through a mutual friend and a customer, and they had been watching and waiting for our arrival. We were served homemade bread for lunch, and with the knowledge that wheat grows in Israel, we asked if they were still milling their wheat to make their bread. They told us no, because their mill would not work in Israel. I then jokingly replied that we would indeed have to fix that and declared that though they had the wine part covered, we could not bring Jesus back with dead white bread. But as Brad and I returned to our tour bus, we both immediately knew that Hayavel in Israel was to be our next waters. We left full of excitement and our minds spinning with thoughts. We did not know what this ministry to Israel would look like, but God soon confirmed our vision. On December 21st, 2019, before I began my daily Bible reading, I prayed and asked God to please speak to me and give me a fresh word or revelation. I didn't want my reading to simply be to check off a box in my yearly Bible reading guide. After my prayer, though, I began reading the book that I was scheduled to read for the day, the book of Haggai. When I got to Haggai 2:19, the promise there of God leapt off the page at me. It said, "Is the seed still in the barn? As to the vine, the fig tree, the pomegranate, and the olive tree, they have not produced. Yet from this day forward, I will bless you in the harvest of your crops." I wrote the verse in my journal, but thought, who wouldn't claim that verse? But then I noticed that the date the word was given to Haggai was mentioned more than once. I followed the Hebrew calendar, so realized that the very day, the 24th day of the 9th month, that this word was given to Haggai was the very same day on the Hebrew calendar that I was reading this promise. I knew God was speaking directly to me. Earlier in December, in our annual Becker Christmas class, Brad had shared with the class about our experience in Israel and that Israel would somehow be our next waters. On December 23rd, just 2 days after the Haggai promise, I received a call from a longtime customer and friend of Bread Becker's. She was in the Christmas class and really struck by our call to Israel. Though we explained that we did not yet know what our vision in Israel would look like, she and her husband wanted to donate to Real Bread Outreach as seed money for Israel, she said. She assured me that we could use it however we needed, but their heart for the gift was as a seed for our ministry to Israel. I told her how much every donation blesses us, whether large or small, and each time a donation comes in, it's not just money to accomplish the work we are doing, but it's an encouragement and confirmation to me that we are on the right path. She did not tell me how much she wanted to donate, but she simply dropped the check by Bread Becker's later that day. Even now, as I share this, I am overwhelmed with joy. Her seed was for $15,000. It took me about 24 hours to process what God was doing and to make the connection with the promise He had given me just a few days prior to this call. God was already fulfilling the promise He had given me in Haggai 2:19. I was reminded of her use of the word seed. And I thought, you cannot harvest a crop without first having seed. We set the money aside for Israel and planned our trip for the fall of 2020. But like so many other plans, COVID shutdowns and vaccine restrictions halted all of our travel plans. We have held that money aside, waiting for God to open the door. I was recently reminded of the beginning words to this verse, "Is the seed still in the barn?" That original seed money, so generously donated nearly 3 years ago now, has been sitting in the barn or bank, waiting for God to open the door. Last year, while waiting, a door opened for us to go help a ministry in Tanzania get a bakery established. So off we went with a mill and a mixer in hand. Well, actually, in a very large suitcase. Brad and I spent 2 weeks there and helped furnish a beautiful kitchen with work tables, ovens, and supplies. And I later returned for 2 more weeks to do more bread training. We were recently able to help purchase several thousand pounds of wheat for storage and for use. They are now a fully operational bakery and are very excited about the opportunity. I love the people of Tanzania and I can't wait to return. But the seed money for Israel has been waiting in the barn until now. Today, I am happy to report that the door for Israel has finally opened and this vision is being realized. In fact, even as you are listening today to Sue's Healthy Minutes, Brad and I will already be in Israel on the Mountain of Blessing for 2 weeks to establish a bakery at Hayavel. We found a beautiful commercial stone grain mill that will be imported from Austria that will grind any kind of seeds and grains as well as herbs. Please, please, please pray along with us that it will get through customs and arrive while we are there and not get held up. I was recently reminded of those first words I spoke to Brad on the driveway that day 30 years ago when we started Bread Becker's. And I said, I do not think I am supposed to make bread for the world, but to teach the world to make bread for themselves. I had no idea that more than 30 years later, God would use us to literally teach the world to make bread. It is humbling, yet very exciting to be used by God in this way. We are also especially thankful for your support. If you'd like to be a part of all that God is doing through Real Bread Outreach, please visit realbreadoutreach.com. You can make a donation online there or at Bread Becker's or send a check to the address listed on the Real Bread Outreach website. While we are in Israel, Sue's Healthy Minutes podcast will continue. We will be replaying a few of the episodes that we think are worth hearing again. So please keep listening, and I look forward to sharing more with you on our return from Israel. Until next time, This is Sue Becker from Bread Beckers with Sue's Healthy Minutes.
Sue's Healthy Minutes podcast has been a presentation by the Bread Beckers Incorporated located in Woodstock, Georgia. For more information, store hours, and learning opportunities, visit breadbeckers.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast and never miss an episode. Share this with 2 friends who would benefit from this information, and be sure to join us again next week for more of Sue's Healthy Minutes.